Hello everyone, this is Aparna from TecLov. Today we will be learning about lists in Python. We'll understand how to create a list, access the elements of a list, check if a particular element is present in that list, slice a list, add or change elements in the list, remove elements, sort a list, copy a list, iterate through a list, and create a list with list comprehensions. So these are the things that we will learn and see today in this video. Like always, it is recommended that you fire up your Jupyter notebooks at your end and code along with me. It will enhance your understanding of the topic. So let's begin. Now, when we say lists in Python, what does a list mean? A list is basically a data structure in Python. Number one, it is mutable, meaning it is changeable. You can change the elements of a list. The second is it contains a sequence of elements. And the elements in the list are also known as item. A list is represented by square brackets, and you can say 1, 2, 3, 4. So this can be a list. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 will be known as items, and it is these elements are separated, or these items are separated by a comma, and a list in total is represented by square brackets. Now, a list is also known as a compound data type. What we mean is a list in Python can have different data types or primitive data types from Python itself. So we can have an integer item, we can have a string item, and we can have a float item all in the same list. So we can have a list of strings, something like this, or a list of numbers, something like this, or we can have a flexible list, something like this, having different data types. So this is what we mean when we say list is a compound data type. It can have an integer, it can have a string, and it can have a float item as well. Now we can also create an empty list like this, or we can also create a list within a list called a nested list, something like this. So strings, numbers, different data types, an empty list, a nested list, where there is a list within a list, and there is no limit to the number of items I can have a list. I can have as many items I would like. So if I just say print string list, and here I say print num list, and here I say print flexi list. This is an empty list. And lastly, I want to see what is there in the nested list, so I can give nested list. So when I execute these, you can see that this is an empty list. So when I execute these, you can exactly see the items or the contents of this list. So in the string list, let's learn how to access items in the list. We have seen that this is the string list. We'll use this same list. Now I want to access the third item, C. So I can type string list, then I can say 0, 1, 2, and I can just print this output. So it gives us C. So the way I have done it is by using index. So the indexing of lists is exactly as same as what happens overall in Python. The index starts from 0 from the left hand side. So in this case, T is the 0th element, E is the first element, C is the second element, L the third, and so on. But when we start from the right hand side, it will be something like this. V will be assigned -1, O will be assigned -2, L will be -3, and so on. So we can say that the syntax will be something like this. Now we had seen a nested list earlier. This was our nested list. Let's just paste that. So I want to pull out the character Z in this list, which is nested in the bigger list. So I can say something like print, my list name is nested list, the second element or the second item, and in that second item the 0th item. So how is it going to be? Apple is going to be my 0th item, 12 here is going to be my first item, and this whole list is going to be my second item. Now this itself is a list, so again the same index rules follows. So in this second item, Z is going to be my 0th item. So if I say print nested list square brackets 2 and within square brackets 0, I should get a Z here. So that's how we access the elements, or we can access the elements of a list. So this way you can check whether a particular element is there in the list or not. And we have learned how to check if an item exists in a list by using the keyword in. Brackets and say 0 to 3. So let's see, go ahead and execute this. Here TEC is what we got. Now suppose I want to print the same letters TEC using negative index. I can say something like print string list colon -3. So let's see what the output is. The output is the same. So I can access or slice the list in a couple of different ways. One using positive index or list index, the other using a negative index. I'll give you another example. So when I say print string list and say 1:5, so it is going to start from the second element and end at the fourth element. So it's going to print, it's going to start from E and it's going to end at O. Let's see how that happens. Here it's taken the second element of the list and gone till the fourth element of the list. Now let's look at ways to add or change elements, items in a list. Let's take a different list. Let's take a list of all the prime numbers. So I have typed 2, 3, 4 and 7 and I have executed it. But now when I say print P, now I have seen an error. Since I wanted to print a list of prime numbers, I see 4 here and I know 4 is not a prime number. I have to replace it with 5 here. So how do I go ahead and do that? All I can say is P I specify the index. So 4 is going to be the second index, and I want to change it to 5 since 5 is a prime number. Then I will say print p and execute it. Here we have changed the list. So in this way we saw how to change one item in a list. What if we want to add multiple items in a list, as in add more numbers to this list of prime numbers? So we can say something like p, that is my list name. So 0, 1, 2, 3, I want to start from the 4th and end it. I'm not going to specify where to end, and I want to add a list of more prime numbers following 7. So that's going to be 11, 13 and 17. So I want to add these prime numbers to this list, and I will say print list, and here it's added. So if I want to add only one single element to a list that is very long and I don't know the index, I can use the keyword append and just specify the value that I want to append. So this is our list of prime numbers. I want to add 19 to the end of it, and I'm going to say print p, that is the name of my list. Execute it, and 19 has been added to the list. Similarly, I can add more than one item at the end of the list using the keyword extend, and I can mention what I want to extend it with, the values that I want to extend it with. So here I want to give more prime numbers to this list p. So this is our list p with all the prime numbers. I want to extend it with these prime numbers, or I want to add these prime numbers to the end of the list. Then I will say print p. So after 19, it has taken these 4 prime numbers and added to the end of this list. Now you can insert a value in between a given list. The keyword for that is insert. So I'm going to say my list name dot insert. So p being my list name here, insert. And in this, I will give 2 parameters. One is going to be where I want to insert it, the index, and the second is going to be my value or what I want to insert. So I'm going to say prime numbers. So I want to say prime numbers in the 0th location. So it's going to say prime numbers, then it's going to say 2, 3, 5, 7 and so on. Let's go ahead and print our list. Here it is. Since prime numbers is a string value, I have given in double quotation marks. So prime numbers, then it gives the list. So the first argument of the insert keyword is going to be the index. This is going to be the index, and this is going to be the value to be inserted. Now Python is very intuitive. If I say print, I want to print TecLov, and I want to print it 5 times. So I can just multiply it by 5. And it's going to give me a list with the same word TecLov printed 5 times. So this is a simple way to create a list. Now I can add 2 lists also, meaning if my list A consists of 1, 2, 3 and my list B consists of A, B, C, and when I say CC, equals to a plus b and say print cc. Can you guess what the outcome is going to be? It's going to be a combined list of these elements of the list A and these elements of the list B. Now what if we make this also 1, 2, 3 or say 4, 5, 6? Now what is it going to do? It's just going to print it in sequence after list A. It's not going to add 1 plus 4, 2 plus 5 and 3 plus 6. Like adding or changing elements, we can also remove or delete elements in a couple of ways. So we'll look at remove or delete. So I'm going to use the same P list of prime numbers. Now I want to delete 2, 3, 5. So 2 is the second element, the second, third and fourth elements. So I can say this, give the index, and then I'll say print P. So these numbers have been deleted. I want to delete the second element and the third element alone. For me to remove these two elements, I have to say 1 colon 3 and then I say print P. Here now I have been able to remove 2 and 11 from this list of prime numbers. Removes element by specifying its value. Pop removes an element by specifying its index. I can also delete the entire list by using the keyword clear. So I can say p.clear and this will not take any arguments or anything in the parenthesis and print p. It's going to return as an empty list. So the few ways we can remove or delete items in a list are by using the keywords del, del, by using remove, by using pop and by using clear. We can clear the list completely, returning as an empty list. Now let's go ahead and look at sorting of a list or how to sort a list. List sorting. So this is the list I'm going to use. Now I can sort it in the reverse order or in the forward order, or in the descending order or in the ascending order. So this being my list, so I can say num list dot reverse for reverse sorting, and I will print num list. So it has printed the exact reverse of this list, but I can use dot reverse to reverse the elements of a list. Now we have looked at reversing this. Let's reorder this or sort this in the original way. We can do this by saying num list dot sort. So this automatically sorts in the ascending order and print num list here. So we have looked at two ways of sorting. Let's look at copying a list. So a good method to copy a list without changing the original members of the original list is to use copy. So if I say this is my original list, and if I want to make a copy list, I can say num list. I want to copy this num list. I can say numList dot copy, and this will copy the contents of this list into copy list. So let's check. Print copy list. Now I say this is a good method because if any changes that I make on the copy list, it will not affect the original num list. So if I say I want to change the first zeroth element, the first element of the copy list to say TecLov, I can say that. Now when I print copy list, when I print this list now, so when I print this list, it will replace the zeroth element with TecLov. Now you can ask why use copy and why not just directly assign a list to another variable. So if I say A is my new list, and if I copy it directly, copy the num list directly, if I do this and execute it, now these are the contents of my new list AAA, and these were the contents of the original list. So let me go ahead and show you why this method of copying is a wrong way to copy. So if I make any changes in this list, I want to amend the first word to, or the last element, the 8th element, to say now amended, now changed list, now changed list. So I want to amend the new list. I have copied the num list to a new list, and now I'm trying to change the new list. I will change the 8th element or 8th item of the new list to say now changed list. I will execute it, and then when I say print, you will definitely see that the copied list has changed. But what you will not see is when I print the original list, num list, even the num list has changed. Now let's look at how to iterate through a list. So what this means is I can print a list in number of times. So for treats in, I'll say ice creams, then cakes, and then say toffee, print I like treats. So when I print this is how the output is going to be. So I can use a list and iterate through it to print each element of the list in a separate sentence. Now finally, let's look at list comprehensions. So list comprehensions means to create a list in a very neat and easy way. You don't have to write much to make a long list. You just have to use the first statement. So let me show you with an example. So list comprehensions, the expression is generally followed by a first statement inside a square bracket. You can thereby making a long list however you want. You can also use comparison operators using list comprehensions to get a certain type of list. Let's go ahead with an example here. So say I want to print the table 3. So table 3. Now one way is I can manually do it in my head and say 3 ones are 3, 3 twos are 6, 3 threes are 9, and so on. This is one way. I can manually type everything. But a neat way that this can be done is 3 into x for x in range 11. Now when I execute it and print the table 3, there's going to be a list showing the 3's table. Isn't this a neat way to print a long list? Now I can, like I said, I can also use comparison operators here. Let's create a new table, a 4's table of 4, and let's give a conditional statement here. It's exactly the same statement as 3's, but here we want to give a condition. We want to say if x is greater than 4. So what this will do is it will print all the elements for x in range 11, but only for elements which are greater than 4. So it's not going to print 4 into 1, 4 into 2, 4 into 3 and 4 into 4. It's going to print from 4 into 5, 20, and it's going to print till 4 into 10, 40. So let's go ahead and execute it and then print this table. So like we discussed, the if condition, you can put a conditional statement to create a particular type of a list. Use your creativity to create different lists for prime numbers or for 2's table or odd numbers or even numbers. You can do all of this with just one line of code in Python. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed this session, video session on lists.